Hi. I'd like to begin the show by saying that you can support Watch Out for Fireballs and other shows that are similar to Watch Out for Fireballs by going to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. There's lots of cool stuff that you can get and, you help us out. That's patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to Watch Out for Fireballs Dispatch, our monthly Q&A, topics, listener response, and new game announcement program.
Yeah, we will be answering your questions, reading your responses to November's games, Left 4 Dead 2, Stardew Valley, and Starcraft 2, and then revealing January's games. It's hard to believe it's already going to be 2022.
It was a quick year.
Yeah.
I thought.
Agreed.
Or it felt like it to me.
Same.
So,
yeah.
Let's get into it.
Let's do.
Here. Yeah. I'll go ahead and get us started here. Question from Tamika. They say, are there any game mechanics, design decisions, or features that can destroy your interest in a game? Even if it was something that you were otherwise looking forward to.
I mean, randomized, like, Diablo-style loot is a big problem for me.
Yeah. That was going to be mine. I don't like a loot pinata.
Yeah.
Like if I start having to sort gear into different colors and stuff, I get bored.
Yeah, that becomes a bit of a problem, that MMO style loot kind of thing. Go back to any number of episodes where we talked about pickup economy and how that ties into other systems like exploration. That ends up being being a bit of an issue.
Mm-hmm. There's a once upon a time I definitely would have said crafting, but there are some things I like crafting in, so it doesn't automatically discount it.
Yeah.
Something. And then the other one for me is I don't like playing a game multiple times to get the real ending.
Yeah.
I don't want to repeat content, and I don't want to do a slightly different spin on content I've already done. Mm-hmm. Like I like being done with a game when I'm done with that.
Yeah.
If it's a narrative game, like I say as a roguelike guy.
Yeah.
Where like the end point is where you call it, but I don't like a visual novel style. See this from, the part A is the same, but part B and C are different.
Yeah.
Do it 9 times to get the golden ending stuff.
Your near style kind of deal. Yeah. I used to be more down on like proc gen kind of stuff. Before I saw really good uses of proc gen. That said, like if I am, browsing on Steam looking for new horror games, and it's like this is an asymmetrical multiplayer proc gen kind of thing. I was like, no, thank you.
Proc gen lends itself really poorly to horror.
Yes,
it kind of depends on the genre, I think.
Yeah. Just there are misapplications. Let's say. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Greg writes, I'm going to shorten this just a little bit, but kind of explains that he is interested in Dark Souls, but finds that doesn't have the reflexes, but still wants to experience something like that, and also doesn't have the patience to invest to get the time to get good. Could you guys perhaps suggest some Dark Souls-like games that are fun to play while being easier and less frustrating? Thanks, and keep up the good work. Kingsfield 4.
Kingsfield 4 is also like you die like immediately. Like, you still die very.
I suppose.
The thing that I saw this on the Patreon, and it's a tough question because Dark Souls is really easy when it comes to these games.
Yeah,
they get harder. They don't get easier than that. I think that adjusting to the rhythm of the game and adjusting your expectations and pace of play and stuff is a prerequisite. I don't think it's optional.
Yeah.
For these, so like every once in a while, like someone will come around and be like, oh, I found Bloodborne easier than Dark Souls because they came to it from character action, but it's still like an incredibly tough game. Like that's more just like flavors of very tough. Dark Souls and Demon Souls are the two slowest, least reflex based Souls likes that I know.
Yeah, yeah. And most most indie studios or most other studios that are going after Souls-like, making games in that vein, they are going to correct upward on difficulty as opposed to downward,
Yes.
Yeah.
So it might be a thing where it's just not for you, which is fine. Like the things, the rhythm of playing a Dark Souls is playing really slow, committing to actions, and reading tells.
Mm-hmm.
And that is never easier than it is in Dark Souls and Demon Souls.
Yeah.
Where every boss has a really big wind up and you chunk them down in like 10 hits. They're just going to become more damage spongy and faster with less readable tells as the series goes on.
Yeah. Knowing Greg and knowing that he likes Super Nintendo and PlayStation style games, I think that the best way into this would probably be Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight is by no means an easy game. However, if you have played and enjoyed Metroidvania games, that is closer. That is a way in to Dark Souls style atmosphere and storytelling. Yes. And some of the boss rhythm kind of stuff with its healing. I would say like Hollow Knight stands really well just as like an amazing game, in addition to being an amazing Souls-like experience. I think that's a good way to go. Yeah,
it doesn't map as 1-to-1 onto Dark Souls. Like I don't know that Hollow Knight prepares you to play Dark Souls.
No.
By any means, but it's still just a really great game and worth anyone's time.
Yeah.
And if you play that and it's just like, oh, this is too tough, then it I'm not saying this as any kind of, challenge chauvinist, but it might just not be for you, which is fine. There's lots of different ways things can be tough, and there's lots of different ways to enjoy games, but there aren't like, there's almost a vacuum for a more direct, like over the shoulder 3D Souls that is easier than Dark Souls.
Like Ashen could have been that, but they decided not to be.
They decided way not to be.
Yeah.
But there's a hole in the market, which is what kind of shows. It's interesting that no one's decided to take it that way, probably because gamers would flip out about how easy it is because they suck.
Yeah. Not realizing that it's not for them, just like the harder Souls-likes are not for a lot of people. Yeah.
Maya asks, Bethesda got the Elder Scrolls and Fallout franchises as their premier WRPG franchises. Bethesda man calls you and says, Gary and Cole, pick the next genre of our Radiant AI Quest Explosion first-person giant RPG franchise. What are you pitching?
I can't decide if Maya means franchise instead of genre, because Maya described, Radiant AI RPG genre kind of deal.
And they said Elder Scrolls and Fallout.
Yeah.
Those are the two different genres.
I know that your answer is going to be Shadowrun. I think that's a really good idea.
Shadowrun or X-Men.
Yeah.
Like my X-Men thief-like immersive sim.
Yeah.
Imagine robbing houses and poking around them as Nightcrawler.
It'd be pretty good.
Be pretty fun.
Yeah. It's tough for me. I'm trying to think of like things that I have a lot of like affection for franchise wise, but I also
Achewood.
Yeah, going around the underground. Yeah. That'd be tough.
Like the Fallout quest starting, like the Great Outdoors fight, like appears.
you just walk and you get the area card for the acres. Yeah. How about Berserk? I think a Berserk one would be pretty good. Just set something in that world where everything's all fucked up. Yeah,
that is definitely a cool idea.
Yeah, just because I want a more interesting Berserk game than that Musou game. The Band of the Hawk.
I want Musou games to go away. So I'm sick of them colonizing franchises I like.
Yeah.
So
man,
don't get it.
Stuart writes, after liking and finishing Metroid Dread, I found that I felt Metroidvanias as a whole have been done better in the indie space. I've also been keeping track of new immersive sims from indie developers, and I'm hoping that we see a boom with them like we have with Metroidvanias. Are there any genres that you prefer seeing handled by indie teams rather than AAA studios? Horror, like just generally, like indie horror is fucking where it's at, man.
And also, I mean, Stuart got it with Metroidvanias.
Yes.
Yeah. Right? Like, I haven't played Dread yet, but it's hard for me to think it's going to be as good as like a Hollow Knight.
Yeah.
They have basically dialed that genre.
Yeah.
And then other genres I love that indie studios do aren't made by AAA studios.
No.
So I like, I love roguelikes and deck builders and stuff, but nobody makes those.
The closest we have is Returnal, but that's that is an exception,
Yeah. And that's still like kind of like a double A, like priced like a triple A, but it's a, a developer that not a lot of people knew or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, in general, like I almost will always prefer an indie take on stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing Fallout 4 for WAF next, and like that kind of big Bethesda thing is something that indie studios don't have the resources for.
Right.
And I think that has a place in my gaming ecosystem. Like I like playing those every couple of years, but most of the time I can get what I want out of an indie.
Yeah.
Being not a graphics and production hound. I don't care about that stuff very much.
Yeah.
So
as far as immersive sims go, I know of like a handful. Like I know you've got your Neon Struct and your Cruelty Squad and whatnot. I'm curious about all of those. But it is not something that I've seen a lot of pickup on, I guess.
I haven't either. And even those that's another genre that I think I associate with AAA because of the amount of resources that go into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've not seen a lot of AA immersive sims.
Mm-hmm.
Gloomwood will have some immersive sim DNA.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I would like to see more of that as well.
Yeah. I would like to see Gloomwood. I want more. I want more Gloomwood. Oh.
Yeah, I will play that game when it comes out. That's good. But like all games, it comes out when it comes out.
It does.
I'm happy to wait. Patience is the number one gamer virtue.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to nail my 95 gamers theses to the gaming church. And it's like patience, use your consumables, kill the hype inside you.
Yeah.
Andrew asked, finally getting around to Disco Elysium, and it's definitely a detective game, among other great things, in a way that Paradise Killer isn't. What are some non-Paradise Killer games that you were either disappointed or excited to find out were far different than how they were presented? It's a good question. I don't know, because I've been concentrating on work games like a lot recently.
Yeah.
So my things I've popped into that we aren't doing for the show have been limited.
Right.
So my memory is a little bit rough on that one.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much the same. I tend to go into games for the show with a pretty good idea of what they are. My expectations are usually pretty right sized, by the time we make a decision to jump into it. So it's hard to hard to say like that I've gotten like catfished, by some of these specifically. Yeah. I don't know that I have an answer for this.
Like the most recent example I have of it is Paradise Killer being sold to me as a detective game.
Yeah.
As opposed to a visual novel, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not, that wasn't, that's it. That's in the question, so that helped inspire the question. So it doesn't count.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to have to, I'm going to have to bow out of this one. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. No good answers right now.
Yeah.
Just because of, the work game balance right now.
If I think of one later, I will interject with it while Gary is talking. So,
and if I think of one later, I will call Cole at 3 a.m. and shout it. I will text him 911.
Yeah.
And then when he calls me back, I'll shout it at him. Just, Dragon Quest monsters. Dragon Quest Joker.
Oh man. So RP writes our final gaming question here. Gary and Cole are banished to a desert island together. Each get to choose 4 games on any platform to take with them.
We're going to have sex.
Yeah.
How long are we going to be there? This question already is making me feel bad.
You're the one who brought
I love you, but it's like what we would do is we would put a line down the middle of the island and we'd hang out once a week.
Yeah, that would be the both of us enjoy. I mean, I won't speak for you. I enjoy my solitude too much to have that be. One of us would end up killing the other. So
unless we had a really good line of sand. Like, how big is this island?
Right.
Is the tricky part.
I mean, also this is an island that has electricity. It has power. So
yeah, but no internet probably.
Probably. So that
They
that
wouldn't be
like
stuck on it,
that
so.
would let's say it has internet down but not internet out, or it only has
Yeah,
access to
there we
like
go.
Nexus or something, because like
There we
mods and like downloadable content kind of stuff would be pretty important, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. You can continue the question. I just was thinking about us stuck on a desert island together.
Yeah.
And it's not personal. Stuck on a desert island with anybody.
No, it'd be terrible. So each of you get to choose 4 games on any platform to take with you. What do you choose and why?
I'm just so we don't turn the whole podcast into this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'll say real quickly off the top of my head, I'm going to say Final Fantasy Tactics, endlessly iteratable, challenge runnable, probably Dark Souls. Again, we have mods in the scenario we've invented.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, I like doing different challenge runs and different builds of that.
Right.
Isaac.
Cool.
With all of the expansions. Can always start a fresh save of that. And then it's hard because like my favorite games have a narrative, but that doesn't, I can imagine being on this desert island and playing Disco Elysium the same way.
Right.
For 10 years before I like trying to see what else happens in it.
Yeah. I don't know.
I would Tetris or something.
Yeah. Tetris was going to be one of mine. I was going to say like Tetris, Stardew Valley, Minecraft, and Cities Skylines. Just like some kind of like real meaty, management sim, city builder kind of thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. City Skyline would be good.
Yep.
For that, some kind of city builder.
Yeah. They're just nice, with Minecraft to get lots of mods and stuff, and I can put infinite time into that anyway. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Those would be mine. I just looking at it for the long haul.
Mm-hmm.
just gonna take the entire, just all 4 of the Survival Kids / Lost and Blue games. It's a real busman's holiday.
I want to play a mediocre version of this thing that I love for eternity until I die of scurvy.
Yep.
Moving on to life questions. Lucky asks, I was recently summoned for jury duty for the first time. I was actually disappointed not to be chosen to sit on a trial. If either of you had jury duty before, were you more curious to see the process firsthand or more annoyed at your life being interrupted? What would you want to see in a video game about being a juror? That's a great question.
Yeah.
Did you ever do jury duty? I know I've told my jury duty story before. I'm not just like chomping at the bit to tell it again or anything.
No, I've never done jury duty. Like my name has come up and I've had to make the phone calls, but it was during COVID. I think that maybe if they were holding more active court sessions or whatever, that I probably would have been pulled up, but I was lucky enough. It would be an inconvenience. I think it'd be really interesting, just from a life experience kind of thing. And also from you get to serve the community, but no.
Civic duty is something you and I are sickos that get off on.
Yeah. So like, I'm not saying it would be like, the greatest thing, but also it's something that would be cool to get to do before I die. So no, I've not. That is generally my attitude toward it.
I have been called twice.
Mm-hmm.
One time I served, and the difference between then and now is that I worked at a 9 to 5 that paid for jury duty times. It was basically just going to a more interesting job for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And that made it good. It was a pimp.
Okay.
And one of his not client, the reverse of a client, one of his employees, I guess.
A contractor. Yeah.
Yeah, independent contractor that worked with this pimp. And like all kinds of wild shit in this thing. Like she had been shot in the leg by him. It was really interesting because there was all these coded phone calls from jail.
Oh yeah.
That he had done to his partner. That were all like, did you get the folders? Yeah. Things like that, like where you couldn't talk about it. It was very fascinating. He had like forensics experts come in, everything. It was super cool. And he was guilty as hell. Yeah. And then it was really interesting though, because the victim was really non-sympathetic.
Okay.
She was like currently on drugs in court and admitted to doing a lot of drugs and talking about how much he loved it when he ate her pussy and shit, like unprompted. It's
I mean,
she's making it real hard for the normies to like look at her objectively.
I mean, you're making her sound like Frank's girlfriend from the Hank marries a hooker episode,
the Pretty Woman. Yeah, Frank's Pretty Woman. Yeah, it was real similar to her, Dusty.
Yeah,
he's called that because she did lots of angel dust. Real similar energy to Dusty. But it was fascinating. And then the second time it happened, I was way too like leftist to get picked for a jury.
That's the thing.
Because one of the things that the prosecution will ask is, do you think that a police officer's judgment is better than the average citizen's? And I'm like, no, like not even remotely. They're just people. Yeah. And that it like immediately disqualified me.
Nice.
It was rad. The experience of a video game in which you were a juror would not be that different than a Phoenix Wright or a Paradise Killer, where you're presented with a lot of evidence.
Right.
And jury is a collaborative process. What I would love to see is an online game where it's 12 different people who play a jury.
Oh yeah.
That's a really cool, like Ludum Dare idea to me.
Yeah. I mean, the version of like jury duty that I have in my head is, 12 Angry Men, where it's not so much like everybody comes to their own opinion, but it's like a trial within the trial where like one person makes an impassioned case for why people should change their votes. But that is, there's only one Gregory Peck,
A version of that happened in ours. This horrible white lady who they told us, a couple of times during the trial, like, hey, you shouldn't make a decision until you hear all the evidence. And she took that as we should not really think about the evidence. So she wanted to go over the whole like 2-week trial.
Oh God.
In deliberation. And nobody was putting up with it.
No.
Like I've never had a collective, like everyone in the room rolled their eyes at one person experience quite that strong. Like, and at some point somebody's just like, yeah, we're not doing that. Like,
yeah.
You should have paid more attention.
Yeah, you should have been, at least like cataloging the pieces in your head. Maybe not putting them together, but like, come in with a reckon,
Give it some thought the night before the finale, Think about it in your off hours as well.
Yeah, don't waste our fucking time,
Like I was definitely open to some kind of bombshell showing up at the end that would have changed my mind about it. Like I didn't predetermine that I thought this dude was guilty, but the judge was not asking us to ignore every single thing that was suggested up until that point and take it, and review it at the end. I think she was just trying to milk more time out of it or something.
Oh, maybe. Oh God, that sucks.
Yeah. It was real dumb.
Yeah. The phone calls with like the coded stuff, that is really fascinating because I'm related to people in the corrections, in industry or what have you. And like just the strategies that prisoners work or inmates work up to get around the fact that they're being listened to or recorded at all times. I mean, like up to and including like just having really nasty phone sex. And then like slipping in the bit of like communication, just putting in all of the deep breaths and the here's what I'm doing kind of thing, and then saying, and I'll be by with the package at 4. Oh, yes. Kind of like just making it so if anybody's listening in, either recorded or live, either they're gonna turn their attention elsewhere or fast forward through it. And
it's like spy stuff. It's cool.
Moving on to media questions. Nick says, on Bandcamp, Gary's band Modric is labeled as, quote, sad bastard music. What artists or particular albums would you classify as happy bastard music? My best guess is Jimmy Buffett when he made a song about his preferred cheeseburger structure.
He is a happy bastard.
Yeah.
That James Buffett. I just wanted on the record that I would not have called our band sad bastard music. I don't do any of the social media stuff.
Gotcha.
We're the band.
That was
not my phrasing.
That's a high fidelity reference.
I think it could be.
No, it is. It definitely is. Jack Black's character calls I think John Cusack's character puts on Belle and Sebastian. He calls it old sad bastard music.
Yeah, there's a good chance that'll be changed by the time this episode drops as I sneak into the Bandcamp and get rid of that. I don't know what would be happy bastard music. Beulah? Like there's not a lot of like happy musicians that I can think of who make happy music.
there's like happy in the context of things. So like my reference point for this would be the Eels. They did Electroshock Blues in 1998, which was about his mom passing away of cancer and his sister killing herself. And then I think the next
Sounds
year,
like a hoot.
It's an incredibly good album, but it's one of the most depressing things you'll ever hear. And then like a year or so later, he put out Daisies of the Galaxy, which is an intentional kind of a effort to be a little bit more hopeful. And it's a little bit more upbeat as consequence, while also still being, I mean, real bittersweet. So like, again, it's all in context,
Yeah. Yeah. It's very hard for me to think of much that it doesn't have a lot of qualifiers to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they're happy songs, but like a band doesn't really brand itself. I also think like bands will brand themselves as sad, but I don't think that like typically like bands that I like and bands that I participate in wouldn't brand themselves as neither. Like I think that the ideal is to be slightly more complicated than that.
Yeah. I think that's a reputation that you get more than anything. Any band that I mean, present company excluded, because I think the person who put that on there from your band was making a joke probably. Yeah, but to any band that would like say we're the saddest mofos out there, baby. That's a little that's a little silly.
Cure.
Yeah.
They're a goth band. Like that. There's a genre for it.
Yeah.
Cal asks, do you have any tips for GMing Shadowrun? I've done it a bit and have a reasonable grasp of the system, 5th edition, but I struggle to balance the many different avenues an action can take. One guy is online, another on the astral plane, one dude has possessed a car, and another guy is in a disguise. It's especially hard to stop it from being an arms race of counters, and it all gets very messy combined. My only advice for that is don't play the Shadowrun world in a different system. I don't like any Shadowrun systems. It's my favorite setting, but my least favorite system of rules. And the problem you're describing was a problem when I played in 2nd edition, a problem when I played in 4th edition, in Anarchy, and when I tried or read through 5th edition. So much so that like the Shadowrun game I'm playing now, I'm just doing a Powered by the Apocalypse hack. Yeah, because I don't want to deal with any of that stuff. I know that's like anti-advice, but like the people who made the game have never solved that problem. Yeah. So
seems like a lot to keep track of.
Yeah. So it's not a great mechanical system.
Yeah.
I really like, I'm doing a thing called the 6th World is the Powered by the Apocalypse hack I'm doing. And the thing I like about it is it fixes those problems, but it understands a little bit that Shadowrun is about like gear and tech fetishism. So there's still like lots of equipment. It's not like actual Powered by the Apocalypse where you just do a damage dice based on your class.
Yeah.
Like there are different guns you can get in different cyber you can get that have different effects. They've just folded it into a less crunchy, but also less scattershot system. So you can get the good without the bad.
Yeah. Seems like a good compromise. Yeah. Let's see here. Patches asks, if I was going to explore David Bowie's music, where would Gary suggest that I start?
Gary questions the media zone this time. Yeah. Bowie's been all over the place. The very like the accepted stuff, like you should listen to like Ziggy Stardust. And then if that doesn't catch you, you should listen to, Low. And if that doesn't catch you, listen to Scary Monsters. And if like none of those three catch you, you're probably not a Bowie guy. Like the rest of the stuff is more corner case or builds off of those three. Those are like three very strong albums from three very distinct eras. So that is where I would start. Yeah. And Ziggy Stardust has the advantage of, and Scary Monsters, of having songs you've heard before.
That's the thing. I was going to ask, like, is a greatest hits a good way into Bowie? Like, go just listen to this and then say like, all right, I liked these tracks. These are from this album, and then go deep. Like that's how I've gotten into bands with big catalogs before. Yeah,
that is perfectly fine. Yeah. I think I don't hate on greatest hits the way that some music snobs do. Yeah. There are bands that are, Bowie isn't among them, but there are bands where it's like they are as good as their greatest hits. Yeah. And that's fine.
Yeah. Like if somebody asked me like, where would I start with Neil Young? I'd be like, oh, just Decade. It's amazing. It's tons of great songs. you know,
Yeah,
and
wonderful collection of songs.
You could just listen to that and you would probably be fine.
Well, and Neil Young specifically, like I like Neil Young a lot. Neil Young has some, I mean, so does Bowie, but has some dark,
some eras. Yeah.
Some eras that are pretty tough to listen to.
Yeah.
You know, and just by chance, like not landing on one of those is really good.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't want to pull up Let's Roll or whatever, you know?
Yeah. And just like, I don't like Neil Young. It's like, well, I know you don't want to have this conversation, but that's not an accurate, you know, I don't think you're qualified to say that yet.
Yeah. You know, or like on the other side, you pull up Trans and it's like, oh, this rules, right? And like, nothing, nothing in music is like that. And also nothing in his catalog is like that.
Yeah. It's not representative.
Yeah.
So, James says, hey guys, in the spirit of Cole being interested in where we're writing from, this is James from Leafy West London. With spooky season behind us, what was your favorite horror media this month? I'd like to give it a shout out to Saint Maud, a great 80-minute British horror film from 2019 about a live-in nurse whose pious Christian devotion, born of a former life of past trauma, causes her to believe that she alone will be the salvation of the dying woman she's caring for, with horrific results. It's extremely creepy, thoughtful horror, and I think it would be perfect for Unfilmable. What's the best creepy media thing that you experienced this season that we did not talk about for a show?
Yeah. I finished up, I sat down and I read all of the Drifting Classroom, the horror manga, which is good. It is almost paced like a comedy because I mean, it takes place over a very small amount of time, but it is just a parade of misfortunes that hit these kids, and you know, tens of them die on a page because of one thing or another. But it is creative, and it is kind of shocking to think that this was done in the 70s. So it has a little bit of the there's some weird stuff where this feels tonally out of place compared to something that would be more modern. But I think that like from an art and just general like abundance of ideas kind of perspective, the Drifting Classroom has been pretty good, and it's easy to get a hold of. There's just three of those like Viz perfect bound volumes, which I really enjoy those. Yeah.
I started reading that and fell off it because of that pacing thing.
Yeah.
I didn't quite have like a way to express it, but then that's exactly what it is. It's got a weird pacing. Like I haven't like, you know, sworn it off. I intend to go back to it at some point, but I think I just came into it expecting, and this is faulty on my part, but I was expecting something closer to Junji Ito pacing, even though they spell and pronounce their names differently. Like they're totally different people in different eras. But I remember I was just kind of put off by that.
Yeah. I bounced off of the first volume a little bit, and I put in a little bit of work to get over the friction, and I caught the speed of it and ended up enjoying it. Like there are like a whole story arcs and stuff that are really good in that. The Plague one specifically is fantastic.
I watched a movie called Southbound recently that is excellent. I realized that I had not watched any of the recent anthology horror movies, and it was suggested by some people in the Slack. It's really good. So there's one segment in it that has body horror vivisection that is incredibly hard to watch. Okay. That I think is misguided because there's scary things in it, but they just do a lot of Fangoria shit. Yeah. That is not worthwhile. And obfuscates the part of it that's actually scary, but all the other segments are really cool. It is a really cool movie.
Southbound, you said?
Southbound. Yeah.
Nice.
It's something I was thinking about bringing to Unfilmable at some point. Because it is, it's pretty Lovecraftian. And I mean, I know that's not the remit of the show anymore, but it is. I'd like you to see it. It's genuinely really good. I think you would really dig it.
Yeah. No, based on that description, I'm not again it. Want to do a couple of show questions and then get to lightning round?
That is what I would like to do.
Okay. Jimmy says, hi guys, and congrats on 10 years of Duckfeed. Over the last 7 years since I've been listening, y'all have been a great treat to help me get through awful times, be it exercising, sitting in traffic, or a global pandemic. Thanks for bettering my critical acumen and just generally being good dudes. As a person who has listened and re-listened to a lot of the back catalog, I'm curious what aspect has grown the most over the 10 years? What about 5 years? What do you look forward to growing in the next 5 or 10 years?
We talked about this at length. a few episodes ago. So without repeating ourselves, like I would say go back to that episode, that decade dispatch we did in September. And we addressed both these things quite a bit.
Yeah.
Is there anything you wanted to add to that? Is there anything that you can think of that we didn't cover then?
No, not that I can think of.
No. Just as a you're in luck, you can hear us discuss this very topic at length.
Yep. Yeah, that was September's, which maybe you wrote this in for. This is yes. A little bit older. Yeah.
Yeah. Apologies if we missed you until then. We get more questions and we can answer, which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Andrew asks, I always wondered, when you do a relatively unknown game for WoW, such as Echo, Singularity, etc., do you do any research beforehand, such as development, plot, critical reception, or do you go in cold and research afterwards? So not before recording the episode, but before playing the game is what I imagine Andrew's asking.
Yeah. I mean, even before we select it, when somebody, because generally these come through as requests or demands from patrons, from executive producers, people request 3 at a time, right? And that gives us a little bit of latitude to make a choice. If it is relatively unknown, I think that the biggest thing that I look for is like, is this something that I would be interested to play? And do I feel like I would have anything interesting to say about it? And most of my research is directed to answer those questions.
Yeah, it's not really research.
Yeah.
And those, I wouldn't use that phrase for it.
Right.
Like we get a basic premise and does it sound interesting before we play? But I definitely don't look at, critical reception or development beforehand, because I don't want that to color my experience.
No.
Like it's important, like whether something was made by a small team or what have you, or, made under extenuating circumstances, was rushed, etc. But it doesn't actually change what's on the page. And I don't want that to be like a cloud hanging over me when I play it.
Right.
So like something like, Echo, which I didn't care for. I really didn't like that game very much. If that was, it was made by one guy as a tribute to his dying mother, or if it was made, it had all these grand plans, but the studio fucked it or something like that.
Yeah.
I think that has limited relevance to the actual text that came out.
Yeah.
I don't want to know that stuff.
Yeah.
It's important to the episode, but not important to the play.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
I'll get in one last show question because it's real quick. Connor says some nice things about us. Thank you very much, Connor. And is talking about some of the Duckfeed Presents small shows that we've done, and talks about quiz monsters. Is there any chance that we'll do more of those? And then scare the shit out of me by PSing with spaghetti. So really spooked me good.
Just way too much. I've looked over this question 4 or 5 times as I put the document together. Every time I saw spaghetti, it really got under my skin, if I'm being honest with you.
You can't hear it, but we edited out a lot of hyperventilating. Like this is after a couple weeks of like therapy. We've been able to record the rest of the episode.
Yeah. Go ahead about quiz monsters.
No, I was just going to say, like, I don't know. It was fun to put together, but it's hard to think of things that we have the knowledge for. To do that. What I think that we should do again is Ducktionary Volume 2.
Yes.
There's no real reason not to do that other than time. Like we have all the prep done. We have all the questions collected.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Agreed. I'll look for a day that's pretty light and throw a Ducktionary on there.
Yeah, we have that, and we have another like dispatch roundup. I think that we're probably due before we get too far behind. But those little bonus things like that have to go on the back burner because they're not the main shows.
Yeah.
Like they're little lanyards.
Yeah.
Quiz Monsters is hard because it's hard to think of a franchise that either of us know well enough that is long enough to have a lot of different entries.
Yes.
In it. But there could theoretically be more of that. That was indeed fun to do.
Yeah. Lightning round stuff.
Yeah. Let's lightning round it up.
Let's do it. Doug says a lot of 8 and 16-bit games thrived on mechanics where a special suit would grant unique abilities, a la Tanukis from Mario 3. Any particular favorites from that or other franchises? I mean, Bee and Cat Mario are tough to beat.
Yeah, Cat Mario cape. Like I love the feather.
Yeah.
very much.
I like the way the power armor is handled in Fallout 4. That is very similar, actually.
I'm gonna I've got a tight 5 on that or whatever when we record it, because it's the best the franchise has done with their idea. And I say that as somebody who like has so much affection for that franchise and generally thinks Bethesda misses a lot of what's cool about it. They make a couple changes in Fallout 4 that I think are actually really inspired.
Yeah.
And that's one of them. Marcus asked, what video game locations that aren't just utopias or dystopias would be the best and worst places to live for you? So this I'm rating this as like not too good or not too bad.
The what is it, the Kreitzberg in Shadowrun? Dragonfall.
Oh, sure, in Dragonfall.
Yeah, that would be an interesting place to live, I think.
Yeah, I could live on that big boat.
Yeah.
Or the boats in Hong Kong.
Oh.
And that's a bad place to live because Yami kings are stealing the luck from everyone around them.
Right. No, just the collective kind of place, the free state. Yeah.
Yeah. The maybe a little bit too community driven for me, given that my love of solitude.
Yeah.
In terms of like non-dystopian or utopian, just like chill places to live. We talked about Majula before.
Yeah.
I could just like live in a hut in Majula and wait for adventurers to come like have me laugh at them. That would be fine for me.
Yeah.
That'd be quite nice.
Yeah.
Until I need to eat, and then it'd be like, well, fuck. Guess there's no food.
I guess you got to go find those weird fruits.
Yeah. Oh, great. My poison resist is higher now.
Yeah. I knee jerk. I feel like there's a temptation to say Pelican Town, but I think the Pelican Town would low key, like there are enough things wrong with that place that it would actually be a pretty shitty place to live.
So, only 3 channels.
Yeah.
There's not a DVD player in the town, dude.
Nope.
Like you would get so bored living in Pelican Town. Like you just lift weights in an empty room instead.
Basically prison. Oh God.
You just go to prison. Like, Pelican Town is like the prisoner. Like it feels like it's a place where like former spies and like dissidents are sent.
Yeah.
To me.
Let's see here. That was you, I believe. So here's me. Alex says, this question is inspired by Grime. If you could replace your head with anything else, what would you replace it with? Assume that while you can enjoy some/all of the benefits of your potential new head, that your potential new head would provide, it would have no significant impact on your diet, sleep schedule, or social life. I would like to replace my head with a more normal human size head.
Oh, so you just want to shrink it a little bit?
By like maybe like 8%, I think. I
was going to say closer to 25, but you do you.
Yeah. It's just I think that my head is just it's a little bit too big. Yeah.
It's hard because you still got to be able to eat and everything. It has no impact on diet and everything. I might say a pillow.
Ooh.
Because a pillow can't be uncomfortable. Like I would just put it down and it would be soft automatically.
Yeah, wherever.
Yeah, I might say a pillow. I don't have a good answer for this though.
Yeah, I mean, you have a pillow though. You lose the ability to have a headbutt be a dangerous or threatening move. It just kind of comes across as more playful.
That's true. You'd be surprised how seldom I aggressively headbutt.
Yeah,
somebody in my life though.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's a comfort knowing the options there.
It's true. It's like a safety. It's like how I always keep a Glock under my desk. Just in case.
Yeah.
I'm begging you, home invade me. I'm a weirdo.
Debate me.
Matt asked, do either of you have a background in criticism or broadcasting before the podcast? I feel like I remember one or both of you mentioning some kind of media study in college, but were you two pursuing some kind of talking about media job before podcasting was a thing? Cole kind of was, right?
Yeah, my degree was it was called electronic media. It was formerly like TV radio. So like if I went in the 90s, it would be TV radio. And I got my broadcasting chops as they were by doing college radio and then interning at a radio station that did reading for the blind. Actually, it was a real cool job. but nothing in terms of like criticism more so than just what any liberal arts education would provide for you in that regard. Nothing specifically about this. Mostly it was just microphone and recording technology was like the specific thing that I pursued.
Yeah. I have also never taken any such classes.
Yeah.
So no, the answer is no.
Yeah. This is this is just kind of stuff that we learned by listening to other shows and doing it ourselves.
Indeed.
Yeah. Holland writes, "How's Chris doing? Been missing my Those Fucking Ross Boys episodes. Something awful." Chris is doing okay. He moved a couple years ago to a place a little bit further out in the country. He is currently acting as kind of a full-time chauffeur for his very active teenage daughter. She's about to get her driver's license, which is very strange. No, we've been hanging out. We're gonna help my parents move a mattress tomorrow. Yeah, no, he's doing all right.
Nice.
Yep.
As far as I'm concerned, he's doing fine. I don't actually have an answer for this one, of course.
Yeah. Go on to my Twitter here for kind of like just this past weekend around November the 13th. For my birthday this year, he made me a replica of Homer's spice rack from the Simpsons episode Saturdays of Thunder, the incredibly shoddily made spice rack that he made. And it is ridiculous how accurate it is. Yeah. Wow. When I opened the gift package, I fucking lost it because I did not expect to see that. Yeah.
Chris, a very good gift giver.
He is.
Yeah. Like it just seems like he is incredible at that.
Mm-hmm.
In our final lightning round, Zaynation asks, I've never played a Max Payne game before, so I was halfway through your Max Payne episode on Abject Suffering before I realized that I had been thinking of the 1995 film Major Payne, starring Damon Wayans. This is not the first time this happened. Is there anything like that for you, where your brain just refuses to process a concept and instead shunts you into the closest thing you already know?
Yeah, I call this snapping to grid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's hard for me to think of a specific example, although Major Payne is a very good pull for that.
Yeah. And the answer is yes.
Yeah.
But it's hard for me to think of an example off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
Which I know is an unsatisfying,
yeah,
little bit here.
There are any number of like old MMOs. Like I get like Asheron's Call mixed up with any number of MMOs, like also rans next to EverQuest that were out around that time.
Yes, yeah. There's a lot of that stuff. I always get Infamous mixed up with
Prototype,
whatever that other one is. Prototype. Yeah. Like I get those mixed up all the time.
Yeah.
I also will do this intentionally. Like there's jokes.
Oh yeah.
Like when I worked at PSU in the undergrad programs office, I always said the undergrad programs office as a joke.
Yeah.
Because that was funny.
I work in murders and executions. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, it's hard for me to think of a good example.
Yeah. I mean, one that we do intentionally is mixing up the Shadow and Darkman.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that became intentional.
Well, yeah,
but it was originally just
a misspeak. So it's both.
Yeah. Yeah. It evolved.
Yeah. And now we can throw in the Silver Shroud.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's move on to our topic.
Let's do. This one comes in from Popo for Show, who says, this is another Metroid Dread related thing, saying, after playing Metroid Dread, I've been thinking a lot about map systems in games. I've come to the realization that I like a less is more approach, like the original Zelda pack-in map and the in-universe Deus Ex maps. Do you guys have a favorite map system? Also, if you like maps, check out the game Miasmata or watch Jeremy Parrish's cartography streams.
Yeah, so maps,
baby. I love a map.
I love a map. I love looking at a map in real life. My very unsatisfying answer to this in terms of games is I have come to I just want them to give me the map.
Yeah.
I don't want to earn the map. I don't want to make the map. I don't want, even when it's done kind of fun, like I like the Hollow Knight. I like that little whistling dipshit,
you know? A little whistling dipshit who's constantly disappointing his wife.
Yeah, the little garbage husband.
Yeah.
In Hollow Knight, the game about the garbage husband. Like, I think that's cute. I don't want to deal with it anymore, though. This is now joined the one of the things I was thinking about with this topic that we could broaden it a little bit. Like we can certainly talk about, get some time out of maps, but if we want to get some more stuff, are things that are friction bits that you used to like and now you don't.
Yeah.
And just as I get older and maybe just less patient or whatever, negative character quality you want to ascribe to me, I don't care, and I just want auto mapping that happens automatically from the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, thinking about like the recent Resident Evil remake maps have been especially good, in terms of like automatically providing you a tremendous amount of information, not just which rooms have more to find, but also like if you spotted something and left it behind, it automatically puts a little icon there so that like, okay, if I want this kind of ammo, I passed up this one a while back, which is actually just like a very good way to modernize the limited inventory space system. Actually, it's a really good compromise. Like what I want is a combination between that and like an ability to in-game leave an annotation. I love like a map pin and waypoint kind of deal. That is especially good.
Yes. Same. Like I want to be able to mark a map digitally. I want it to be optional, so I don't want to have to do it. When a game gives you that stuff, like Resident Evil, those maps do, or even back to Silent Hill, where it'd show you which doors you checked.
Yes.
It's doing something that I could do myself.
Right.
So it's not giving me imperfect information. It's just stopping me from having to take my hands off the controller for a little bit.
Yeah.
To do it myself. And the counter argument to that, AKA the Etrian Odyssey approach, is that by mapping yourself, like you're getting greater investment.
Yeah.
In the world. I think I found that I want that investment to come more subliminally and naturally, i.e., similar to like how I could draw the map of Dark Souls.
Yeah.
Because of the way it's designed, the way landmarks work, the just familiarity, because the moments there are so strong that it leaves an impression to me.
Yeah. That
it becomes more than just about like the hallways and wireframe of it. I want a map to be subconsciously, psychically imprinted on me. And if you're not going to do that, I don't want to get out a pad and paper.
Yeah.
Or go to the other side of the screen in the Etrian Odyssey approach.
Right. It is something that I've definitely, that I have enjoyed in the past. I mean, second EverQuest reference, but like playing EverQuest specifically before the Lost Dungeons of Norath expansion, where they added a specific cartography kind of system where it maps stuff for you, like. It was fun to like go to alakazam.com, like a precursor to a wiki almost, and like print out the maps for the different zones and like, mark them up myself. So I could remember like where different quest areas were. Like there was a skill in game for your character called sense heading that you had to do. Like you didn't have a compass, like you could buy one or have someone craft one for you, but like there was just a macro you could bind or to use this skill that would say, okay, you are facing north, you're facing south, you're facing west, and it was unreliable depending on how much you skilled that up. Which is a really interesting approach. And like one of my favorite game books is the EverQuest Atlas, which has these just very beautifully drawn maps of the areas, again, put out before they just kind of built the maps into the game, along with kind of like descriptions of like the lore for that particular area and the things of that nature, right? I like all of that, but that is like relegated to a time in my past, and I'm amenable to the idea that like drawing stuff out helps you internalize it. I've had to force myself to start typing notes for the show pretty much just because of time, because writing things down physically helps me remember them better, but it was taking so much time to transcribe the notes that it was just easier for me to make the outlines as I go. So I'm amenable to the idea that you get an intimacy from drawing your own map, but like the breaking the rhythm, unless I am sitting at a computer and like specifically in a mode to be making those notes with my little graph paper pad, it is not something that I seek out anymore.
It feels like to me, like a lot of those older style games like that intimacy that you're getting from hand making a map can be achieved now elsewise.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like at a time, that is what would make something like the gold box games feel really immersive. Right. Mm-hmm. Like you're sitting down, you're making this map. And I get the idea of wanting to recapture that mechanically as kind of a novelty.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's at least a little bit of truth to. I don't think this is something I would stand by 100%, but there's a little bit of truth to the idea that you had to have that external rounding because the spaces were so anonymous because of the technology at the time.
Because of the tile set, yeah.
Yeah, because that's all it was. And the other half of it is that it was hearkening back to tabletop gaming. Like if I'm doing, playing D&D, I don't mind making a map because I have a lot of time.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there like I'm here for 3 hours. I'm going to be doodling anyway. May as well be sketching out a map that's useful.
Yeah.
If I'm playing a video game, I think that I have gotten to the point now where I want less space between incident.
Yeah.
In kind of a general sense. Mm-hmm. That ties into this. And I recognize that this is just my preference. Like this isn't a virtue in general, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's also not just a thing that comes with age because Jeremy Parrish is older than I am. Mm-hmm. And Jeremy Parrish loves making maps.
Yeah.
Like he recaptures that feeling and he likes doing it.
Yeah. He brings an artistry to it as well. Like there was that one year at PRG where he was doing a Fazanadu cartography stream. It was neat watching him do that. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's published, like you can get like posters of those maps because they're like fun little drawings, and I get that. Like I understand how that could be appealing. For me, it's just not how these spaces, like that's not how their holiness seeps into my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like even spaces that have that anonymity, like something like a Super Metroid, which is like a holy gaming space, doesn't, the mapping part of it is not what gives it that magic to me.
Yeah. No, and it is nice to have all of that there. You know what game had a really good mapping system that I'm sure people who really cared about making their own would turn off and have just as good of a time, but I'm happy the developers gave it. Legend of Grimrock 2.
Oh yeah,
that was like the perfect. Yeah. It'll map the walls for you and stuff, and you can go in and leave your own annotations. Like that was a very good way to kind of like approximate the old feeling while still giving you still giving you what you needed to play the game in a streamlined and sensible way.
Yeah. Well, the elephant in the room as well is that it's much harder to do these in 3D spaces.
Yes. Yeah.
Nobody has done a self-mapping game that, like, you wouldn't make a Metroid Prime that resolved it, that
no
self-mapping.
You would have to do it like a relational map, almost like a mind map kind of thing, where you're doing nodes and branches and stuff more than anything.
Yeah.
No.
So part of it is that it's an inherently retro idea.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it fits into Etrian Odyssey as a throwback dungeon crawler kind of game.
Yeah.
So I think that the fact that it had the map and did that work for you is probably a big reason why Grimrock lands so hard for me. Mm-hmm. If I had to make my own map in Grimrock 2, I probably would not have liked it as much.
Yeah.
Even though those spaces don't feel anonymous to me, I can, could probably picture and get a good sense, like a mental map of it, but it would make backtracking horrible. Mm-hmm. It's just something that I understand the appeal of, but it's a throwback, like sicko thing that I can't care about anymore.
I'm just a sicko about different stuff.
Yeah. I was thinking about it in terms of grime, right? Or like any of the 2D Soulsylvania, like that was a big problem I had with Salt and Sanctuary.
Yes.
Or I think about Grime or Hollow Knight, where there is a map, but they make you work for it. a little bit. I don't, I think that you and I land in similar places in that with Grime, where it's like going and hunting down the node or whatever to give us the map was not inherently a fun activity. It felt good when I got it.
Yeah.
But it's like the difference between an empowering thing versus the game creating a problem and then wanting you to be grateful when it gives you a way around it.
Yeah, it's like it's like thanking somebody for saving your life because they chose not to push you over a ledge.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is a huge paradise killer thing. Like, I understand that's a weird thing to be related, but that's how I felt about all the movement upgrades.
Yeah.
And Paradise Killer. Like, this fucking sucks to get around. Oh, if I go jump through these hoops, it doesn't suck anymore. Like, it just felt like getting back to zero. It didn't feel like a fun empowerment.
Yeah.
Thing. Yeah. And that's really important. You know?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, but as far as maps and stuff go, I mean, just even here in my office over to my right, I've got printed out, not even printed out, I bought this at a show. I've got Final Fantasy VI, the World of Balance and World of Ruin maps displayed here. Over to my left, it's not so much a map, but it is a kind of like a recreation, a hand drawing of the Marble Madness, like Crazy Race. Like out in my living room, I've got the Stardew Valley Pelican town map kind of deal. I love maps as like poster art, as things that you would put up to remind me of
like
Fantasy
them
World stuff.
quite a bit.
Yes.
You know, just functionally is where I run into it.
That's
like,
where it ends up being a problem. Yeah.
I bought, back in the day before this would be very expensive, when I first moved out here, I bought from eBay a box of NES and SNES maps.
Ooh.
From eBay. And I put up the entire wall behind my computer as a mosaic of all of them. So it was like Illusion of Gaia and Star Tropics and like every game basically from those two, you know, Nintendo and Super Nintendo that had a map.
Yeah.
I had a copy of that map. And just had it up on the wall, and it was aesthetically like extremely pleasing.
If you were referencing those to get around, to remember, okay, like where do I have to use this particular drill that I got in Master Blaster? Like,
yes, that would suck.
That would be terrible. You know?
Yeah. When I played Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, I also took the map from the strategy guides and put them up over my monitor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which was really useful. But that function has been subsumed by having a second monitor now.
Yeah, a little bit.
You know, like I still just have the map up. I just, you know, the functional part of this is never going to be fun for me.
Yeah.
It is purely aesthetics. Like maps have become divorced from the game itself.
Because technologically we have found a way to solve the problem, and anything that goes backwards is an intentional withholding of a solution to us. Yeah.
And that's not appealing to me. In a general sense. Like I don't want to be a Luddite for this stuff.
Yeah.
But no judgment for people who do.
No.
You know, there's a reason why those Etrian Odyssey games are so popular. You know, they're tapping into something I just don't own anymore.
Yeah.
Can you think of like a friction thing that you used to like that now you do not like in games?
I think of a game put up like the Morrowind dialogue system to me right now. I would say get the fuck out of here with that.
The Morrowind or the Oblivion one?
The Morrowind one, specifically, where like most of it is like a lot of topics where it's just random. I mean, like everybody just shares responses to the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
And like it's, you know, it's real tough, like finding unique text for that particular person, and it's hard to like identify important important NPCs based on it. It's incredibly neat at the time, and if like I went back to Morrowind, I know enough about that world and about those NPCs that it would be comforting to me. But like if I had to use something with that much, if I had to use a dialogue system with that much chaff built into it, at the current time, that would be a real bummer to me. Oblivion's dialogue system, I don't remember being a huge problem. I know it's Persuasion, like the charisma game that you play in that is dumb as hell, but I don't see that as like dialogue. That's just a little lock that you have to pick to make somebody to make somebody agreeable to you. Yeah,
it's the dumbest thing in the world, but I find it charming now because it's so fucking stupid.
Oh yeah,
the Persuasion game, and that's a good one. I don't want to have a generic, have to sift through generic responses.
Yeah,
I don't think I would have liked that much at the time because you know games like Fallout 1, were not doing that. Right. You know, at the time, like individual, if there was a named NPC, they had bespoke dialogue. I think that Morrowind it was a problem of scale and Bethesda for that. I just want the map. I've gotten to the point now where like, if a quest doesn't, I don't mind a game that doesn't have quest markers. If it is, but I think that it carries a responsibility.
Yeah.
Like if the geography is not readable and with like good landmarks, then I get really frustrated by that as well.
Yeah.
And I'm not bothered by quest markers the same way that a lot of people are.
Yeah.
Like that has become an ease of use thing that I'm like, I'm fine with it. It doesn't, I understand the argument against it. And it, becomes this like just point towards the compass point and tell game go.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it doesn't bother me. I will I want to be able to put down a game for a week and forget what I'm doing and then just click the dead space button to show me where to go.
Yeah. And I think that, I can understand complaints about those, but there are so many things that developers can do to add incident between those to draw you off of the path and like make the space in between them interesting to navigate, that actually like knowing which direction you need to head doesn't like rob you of interesting experiences that you would find looking for it. Right.
Yeah. Well, and I think that people, when they complain about those, they sometimes like to pretend that the games in question have really complicated spaces.
Not really.
And like in something like a Dead Space, like at best in any zone, I have 4 different directions to go to, and 2 or 3 of them will be closed off.
Yeah.
In any given room, So having you basically already have the quest marker.
Yeah.
Just in terms of the video game heuristic of in a limited space, you move forward.
Yeah. I forget what game we made this point. Or here it was very recent for us, which means it was potentially in the past 2 years. But we kind of said that it's nice having the ability to display what the critical path is, so we can explore more, not less. Right?
Because in singularity.
Yeah. So like, okay, I know that that's roughly where I need to head, so I can confidently go look everywhere else, knowing that I'm not going to accidentally like trip the next cutscene that'll lock me into it and lock me off of all this stuff. I can know what is the side, and then I'm going to go explore more. Yeah.
And that was less immersive and less realistic, but I didn't care because what I bought with that currency was more important than what I paid for it.
Yes.
My principles were not going to get in the way of my practical experience. And I am, as I've gotten older, I have become a less principled gamer in that respect. Like I am more interested in joy on the ground than I am, a joy in the hands is worth 2 theoretically that I might get. So
I can listen to the notes the game isn't playing at home.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
Yeah.
So, and I don't feel that way about every single thing. And I don't disparage anyone who doesn't feel that way. It just kind of the trajectory I've gone on. Yeah.
I mean, and the solution ultimately is options. If you don't want quest markers, then turn them off. If you want them, leave them on. It's fine. Like the options help everybody.
It didn't get tons of attention, but BioShock giving you the ability to turn off the Vita chambers was really good.
Yes.
Like we talked about this a lot in terms of cheats and talked about challenge discourse, but I do not buy the option to turn the thing off is too much of a temptation and that people will use it and rob themselves. Like, I think that's patronizing.
Yeah.
In a real extreme kind of way. And as consumers and rational actors, we can be trusted to choose the right experience for ourselves. Like empower yourself enough to trust yourself to make decisions and not have to have an outside force do it for you.
Don't manufacture a moral hazard based on these small things.
There's so much in real life that matters.
Yeah.
to start thinking of like, oh, it's a coward, you're a coward if you use AutoMap.
Yeah.
Like people fucking die. Like, let's not use the language of this.
Yeah. And it all comes back to gatekeeping.
Yeah, exactly. Like, gatekeeping and specifically patronizing.
Yep.
Like just the idea that like I think this would be the best experience for people, so I am going to choose it
Yes.
for them.
Yep.
That sucks.
Yep.
Have some more trust for people. So
agreed.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thank you for the topic.
Thank you, Popo Fasho.
Let's move on to listener responses.
Let's do. I'll get us started here with Alex with Left 4 Dead 2 responses, who says via contact, in the Dark Carnival campaign, if you play the shooting gallery and receive a certain score, you can win a garden gnome. Like a few other Valve games, there's an achievement for bringing him to the chopper at the concert finale. So when my friends and I play together, we'll assign a designated gnome bearer. It is their duty to ensure that little buddy makes it to the end with us. A run through Dark Carnival just isn't complete without our fifth survivor friend. Had a lot of fun playing with the community on the Duckfeed server. Thanks for making that opportunity available.
Nice.
Yeah.
There's a couple of different mini games you can do with that I forgot. Like there's a bell ringing like strength game that when you have adrenaline, like you win. If I remember right, there's a couple of different like things you can do in the midway.
Yeah. God, Dark Carnival, such a good campaign.
Great map.
Yeah.
Great map. Yeah. Tom says via contact, between Left 4 Dead, Portal, and Amnesia: The Dark Descent, I learned a lot from listening to dev commentaries. The design sensibility of these games is very clear after hearing those. I have to be honest, Left 4 Dead 2 has ruined a lot of games for me. Instead of dealing with bright yellow ledges or Mirror's Edge's red pathing, that's weirdly hard to say, I wish the games would follow this idea. Use environmental details to show the path to the player. I can draw a direct line to how I figure out how to get through No Mercy and my love of immersive sims. Authored spaces are and always will have a special place in my heart for how they make exploration worthwhile. I don't want to be a negative Nancy, but every time I hear procedurally generated, I feel like more people need to play Left 4 Dead 2.
I said this in the episode, but when we were talking about kind of the genius of the way that they indicate which way you need to go in Left 4 Dead 2, you don't want to say that there are no other solutions to the problems, that like everybody should do it the same way. However, because Valve has so thoroughly solved the pathfinding in a subtle kind of way, it is frustrating when other studios don't just use that as a baseline, right?
Yeah.
It's like, no, like we know how to direct people's eyes. Like it's right there. You can choose to deviate from it, but like do it intentionally, please.
Yeah. If you choose to break the rules, have it be for a reason.
Yeah.
And we also talked about this in the body of this episode. Like proc gen should not be used for that kind of game.
Yes.
Like proc gen can be really powerful and good if it is used in the right type of game.
Yes. Apply it correctly.
But not this type of game.
Yeah. Cinder writes via contact, you mentioned the jukebox that you can find in the waterfront level, along with several Midnight Rider songs and The Saints Will Never Come. You can also play Still Alive from Portal 1. Still Alive was, of course, sung by GLaDOS actress Ellen McLean, but composed by singer-songwriter Jonathan Coulton. Another song you can hear on the jukebox is Coulton's comedy song, R.E. Your Brains, which will activate a zombie horde when played. I was already a huge fan of Jonathan Coulton even before playing Portal in 2007, and R.E. Your Brains, used in a Shaun of the Dead fan video, was the first song of his I ever heard. So discovering it in Left 4 Dead 2 is a really fun gaming memory for me.
What is that guy up to now?
I don't know.
You don't hear about Jonathan Coulton anymore.
I'm sure
kind of quietly went away.
I'm sure he's doing shows for dedicated fans. I don't know that he still does the cruise. I think that maybe the past couple of years have made the cruise pretty tough. I don't pay attention to him. I've only liked one song of his, Nemesis, that he did with well, people know him as Bean Dad now, but it was a duet with Bean Father, but with John Roderick. That's a good and catchy song, but I have not sought out Jonathan Coulton, so I don't know what he's been up to.
Yeah, I am allergic to gaming novelty music.
Yeah,
so no judgment, but it's never been for me. No. When I love Still Alive, when that came out, but when I went then to listen to more Jonathan Coulton music, it just felt like acoustic guitar music with about nerd stuff.
Yeah.
So it goes into the nerd rap hole for me, which is not a hole I hang out by. There are other holes.
It is a nice fun and joke for fans to put those songs on that jukebox.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Jade says via contact, when I found out Valve was making a co-op zombie shooter, I knew I was going to like it, but I didn't think I would play it consistently for 3 years. Most of my time with Left 4 Dead 2 was actually credited to the tack-down versus mode, which is deceptively deep. The AI director keeps every match different and somewhat at the mercy of RNG, but in versus mode, there are so many little tricks and opportunities for mastery, such as learning wall kicks as the hunter, or how to get the most distance out of your rocket boom, or knowing all of the best death charge spots. The way each special infected can assist or hurt each other adds another layer of strategy. For example, spitting on a charged survivor is always going to result in a good amount of damage to the survivor, but conversely, as a spitter, you generally don't want to spit on a smoker's prey due to how many iframes a survivor gets when they're being freed. Despite playing so long, I never got really good. My biggest weakness was playing as the charger. I developed a reputation with my friends as being the guys who would whiff even at the easiest to land charges, which added more pressure whenever charger came around, and resulted in me choking even worse. Eventually, everyone started referring to the act of missing a charge as a lid charge, lid being my Steam name. Left 4 Dead 2 deserves to be touted as one of Valve's highest achievements, in my opinion. It's not as original or elegant as Portal, perhaps, but it has personality in spades, and the versus mode provides gameplay mechanics that are just as novel. Thanks for covering one of my favorite games, and great work, you two. The great work you guys put into the show. Big fan from Texas.
I think Jade was the person who sponsored that episode, if I am not mistaken.
I believe so as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very welcome. Thank you for the support.
Yeah. It was fun to think critically about the way those stages are put together. Yeah.
Yeah. I apologize for being distracted. Pocket is acting up.
Oh.
Just throwing that out there.
This is generally about the time he starts doing that. Yeah.
He's been kind of a pill.
Yeah.
The last couple of days. Just a lot of running around and whining and making noise and wanting attention and then not really doing anything when he gets it. It just I don't know what's going on.
Don't know.
It may be because the felloway charges that I have are running low, so I might need to change the felloway.
Oh yeah.
Fill the air with like kitty calmacules.
Yeah, the calm cat zone has faded. You need to reinvoke the spell.
I think I need to cast another casting of Sanctuary Pocket, but he's just he's been a real douchebag the last couple of days.
Yeah.
I love him dearly. He's, he's family, but like, Jesus Christ, Pocket.
Dottie has taken to laying down in inconvenient places for me specifically, so I will pick her up and put her somewhere else, which is fun. Yeah, she's learned more of those.
She wants that little ride.
Yeah.
Someday I would like to be picked up and put somewhere.
As a grown adult man.
He's never respected me. Like a big boy. Like, don't you think that would be kind of nice?
Yeah.
Like how it has picked up. Not how if you were to pick me up, it would hurt my armpits.
Probably, yeah.
Turbo crutches. But like if somebody if Gwendolyn.
Yeah.
Or Guinevere.
Yeah, it's frustrating because if you want to look for this, all you get is giantess porn, and I don't want it to be sexual. I just want to be
put into a big bed.
Yeah, and tucked in. I want to be given an airplane ride. Come on.
Yeah, and then just they'll put to sleep.
Oh gosh. Let's move on to Stardew Valley responses. As kind of expected, we got a lot of responses about Stardew Valley. I had to cut a lot of them, but I really appreciate all of you writing them in. I in making the choices kind of chose for variety on some of these. So do not take it personally if we left you out. Abram writes in via contact saying, I've invested a mere, in mirrors and quotes, 50 hours into Stardew Valley, but I enjoyed the experience. I wanted to raise my voice as one of those weirdos who loves the fishing. The minigame itself is okay, but I love the exploration of assessing the different habitats and imagining the life cycles of these fish. It's a biological puzzle and is as close as games come to my interest in animals. I absolutely eat this up in games, and I'm a notable fan of Animal Crossing's and Final Fantasy XV's fishing as well.
Yeah, I did not mind the fishing in Stardew Valley, but yeah, good perspective.
Yeah, I just sometimes what you bring to a game will make you appreciate different stuff than other folks. I am maybe. Based on what I have heard, I am maybe more hostile than the average user to the fishing in Stardew. So,
I appreciate that it did more with the minigame than just tap the button at the right time.
Yes, yeah,
which is what most fishing minigames are, and has captured a universe's like nostalgia for some reason.
Yeah.
Like people want there to be fishing in every video game, and it's basically just to like tap the button in time.
God, I just want an iOS version of the fishing from Breath of Fire 3. It's so good.
I don't remember what that is. I'm sure I played it, but
yeah, it's more in depth than even Stardew Valley's. But also like having just that by itself would be a little bit weird because the thing is you get more powerful pickups to use than you can buy.
Fish for consumables. You trade time instead of money.
Yes.
For stuff.
Yeah.
Matt says via contact, my playthrough of Stardew Valley taught me a practical lesson in ecological stewardship and preservation. When I started, I picked the farm type that was heavily wooded. This gave a first impression that trees and lumber would be nearly infinite resources. Since that farm required a lot of land clearing, I made it a priority to chop down every tree in my land. As I was given the options to build my farm structure, I was able to do so very easily due to my overabundance of lumber. As the game progressed, I needed more and more lumber, I had to go further and farther from my farm to find trees. My clear-cutting mentality meant that there were no trees left to sprout new trees in the area I had been. I eventually chopped down basically every tree I could find, and my lumber production screeched to a stop. There were no more trees left, and none had been growing in my wake. I eventually had to painstakingly regrow my forest from scratch, which was considerably more effort than letting them propagate naturally. If I had just acted with a little foresight and not acted so greedily, I would have progressed at a nice and steady pace. Instead, I acted like everything needed to be built yesterday and ended up only hurting myself. Anyway, no real life lessons or anything to be drawn from here for sure.
Yeah, there's probably nothing there. Let's go ahead and just delete this one off of the list. Yeah.
Very Loraxy. very, very, very Twiceler.
I love this. I like it because this game was not designed to teach that lesson, but the fact that it punished you so thoroughly for being short-sighted, I think, is a really nice emergent story based on this.
Yeah, it's interesting how it punished because it kind of just like spread out the waiting time. Like you had to wait all at once for everything to regrow rather than wait in small increments.
Yeah.
Through being more moderate with your harvest.
Yeah, so you were just kind of like mortgaging your future a little bit, but like if you just let the acorns fall or the equivalent fall and then just naturally propagate, you can get an awful lot of you can really increase your throughput by just cutting down half of the trees and only clearing enough for them, for the new ones to grow, for the new shoots to grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's straight. It's smooths out the curve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that story. Matt says via contact, Stardew Valley is a bit of an odd duck for me. I bought it when it first released on Xbox, put about 2 hours into it, and got distracted by the next shiny thing, never looking back. That said, deep in a pandemic depression in December, I decided to boot it up and give it another go. Cut to the end of February, when I'd logged nearly 100 hours on my farm. It became a minor obsession, talking with friends about it, consulting wikis, getting my wife hooked as well. The fever eventually broke, but even with that much time logged in, I felt as though I'd barely scratched the surface. I don't know if I'll ever return to idyllic Sammy Valley Farm, or my beautiful wife Abigail and our beloved son, what's his name, but I'll always cherish it for helping me cope during a particularly difficult chapter in an already difficult time. I can't wait to hear the game get a WAF treatment. Thanks for all you do. I hope you enjoyed the episode.
Me too. Yeah, nothing really to add.
Yeah.
This and Animal Crossing were the pandemic games for a lot of people.
And that is so valuable. Just a treasure that it was there for that many people when they needed it.
Mm-hmm. Andrew says via contact, One of the ways Stardew Valley stuck with me, surprisingly, is its realistic depiction of one aspect of being in a gay relationship. While most of the dating side of the game is firmly in the vein of every love interest is bi and there's no issue, which I think is a good way to go, this takes a different turn if your male character marries Alex, the jock. If you do, George, his grandfather, often makes comments about your relationship being unnatural. But once you get to know George better, he comes around saying, I'll admit, I thought it was strange for two men to be together, but you're such a nice young man, and I know you two are in love. I've changed my mind. This realistic depiction of homophobia within a family and how it can soften with familiarity struck me as very real and not something often represented in games or media in general. And having this little bit of friction in a game that doesn't have much of it made this moment extra meaningful to me.
Yeah, that's a gamble to put that in, to have homophobia in the game that you might not see resolved, because people might actually read that as authorial intent to put that there.
Especially like if you have the silent protagonist, like you can't, like you can tell
you can argue back. Yeah.
Yeah. There's it's not a game with role playing choices.
Yeah.
You know, like you play a cipher.
Yeah.
In the game. So it's not like you can argue back or he's talking about you.
Yeah.
You know, it's not, so it is definitely risky.
Yeah.
And I'm glad they address it at least a little bit, like having a little bit of teeth to it, you know, I think is a nod towards, if not like verisimilitude, like incident.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
as opposed to the perfectly smooth relationship curves of the game.
Yeah.
Like generally,
yeah.
You know, that is a good little bit.
Yeah. There's a response a little bit later that deals with some of the same subject matter that takes a different view on it. So gonna put that topic to the side just for a bit until we get to that one, a couple down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's see here. Grefter writes via contact. I was really glad to hear you reference how this is in the same oeuvre as The Sims, in that it can serve as an anxiety or depression game. At release, this was exactly both of those as well. I don't quite hit the industrialization as hard as Cole described, but I do get a lot out of large crops and manually watering them. In an unsurprising statement, the multiplayer makes it an amazing hangout game. But also, as someone that lives far from family, who also have shared anxiety and depression, it is capable of being a rare mix of both of them. It has been a real big help for me to hang out with family members with the same brainworms and just sort of be able to do our various tasks. I have a brother who is the mythical person who is just really into the fishing. This also helps shake me out of the that infinite gray funk that depression can be with another family member disrupting my farms. Just a little bit. But that little bit of grumpy because someone picked some of my potatoes for skill ups means so much more than the feeling that is brought by the ending scenes of a game like Arcanum. Also, it feels weird that the fishing doesn't sink its hooks into either of you, since it's a fairly close port of the fishing from Breath of Fire 3 or 4. But then that series not really hitting the show means I suppose those might not have been quite in your JRPG youths, perhaps. Or the fishing doesn't work then either, which is very fair. I do see earlier, I love the fishing in Breath of Fire 3. I don't see a lot of similarities between the two of them, actually. Yeah.
Well, they're also, you're going for different things, I think.
Yeah.
Like, I think that like as being the person who's not really into fishing or JRPGs, like I can understand the contrast of taking some time to fish.
Yeah.
In Breath of Fire, because it's a different mode of play. You know, whereas Stardew is all harvest.
Yeah.
You know, it's all do something to get the thing, to get the produce.
Yeah.
You know, so it feels a little bit less contrasty, I think, to me. I'm searching my memory. I beat Arcanum. I cannot remember the ending of it to understand what that's referencing.
Yeah.
I owe that a replay, but it's mechanically really rough. Like, it's the kind of thing that would be really fun to talk about on WAF, but it would also be hateful because it's like, it's pretty rough.
Yeah.
Like, mechanically as a game, like wonderful everything except for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to relook at the ending of that and see if I can parse that out. So,
no clue. Haven't played it. Couldn't say.
Yeah, really great soundtrack. You'd love the soundtrack.
I'm sure.
It's all string quartet for the whole thing. It's like really good. It has a very strong musical identity.
Yeah.
Andrew says via contact, is it weird that I found Stardew Valley much more stressful than Darkest Dungeon? I felt the same sort of angst playing it as in real life when I have more things to do than time to do it. At least until I got sprinklers, and then there wasn't enough for me to do. I'm in awe of the effort it must have took Concerned Dave to make this, and I also think it sucks that his name now sounds like one of those ugly NFT cartoon things. It does. I just don't think this is to my taste. There are 4 things to do in Stardew, at least in your first year. A plan, press a button in front of a thing, press a button and then do the fishing game, or bad Zelda combat. I'm not the kind of Minecraft/Animal Crossing gamer who likes planning an impressive digital visual presentation and performing low complexity, repetitive tasks just to let my mind wander to the bad thoughts rather than providing me the relaxing experience it seems to give others. I'm happy so many people have gotten so much joy out of this game. I didn't hate my time with it, but I was also very ready to eject it by the time I reached my first winter. At least it doesn't have a real-time clock like Animal Crossing, which stressed me out even more, as I literally had to fit an extra activity into my literal human days, or my island would get too many rocks or whatever.
You don't want all those rocks.
I find that aspect of Animal Crossing wretched.
Yep.
like I have to do this chore every day in real life.
Yeah,
or the game is going to neg me.
Yeah, all of these piece of shit neighbors will be just really passive aggressive, like, oh, look who decided to show up.
It is hard for, like, there are a lot of games I don't get. Animal Crossing's really up there, and every once in a while I get the thought where I'm like, everybody I know loves this, maybe I should give this another try.
I've tried it so many times.
Every time I play it, it's a really annoying chore.
I have given Animal Crossing specifically way more chances, way more benefit of the doubt, and it is just not for me.
Yeah,
and that's fine.
It is. Yeah. The Stress versus Darkest Dungeon, I think this is Andrew from the Slack, and there was discussion about this in the Slack as like people like, I can't believe that's the weirdest thing anyone's ever said. But it's the stress of like having too many things to do.
Yeah.
Not the stress of a deadline. Like there are fail conditions in Darkest Dungeon. There aren't fail conditions in Stardew Valley.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like just having an infinite array of options is stressful.
Yeah, there's a fear of missing out to the way Stardew is put together and the limited time and the fact that it is always ticking down, ticking you through. And if that reminds you too much of things that have a negative association with your real life, I would never ask somebody to expose themselves to that if it wigged them out. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just an interesting way that different kinds of things will enact stress.
Yeah.
In different people, like a fail state in a game feels fake to me, just inherently.
Yeah.
I don't care about me dying or things dying in a game.
Yeah.
You know, like that does not stress me out. Things that stress me out are like FOMO or wasting time.
Yeah.
Will stress me out. Like a life in a game. It was really interesting. Someday we got to do Until Dawn on the show, because I was talking about that with Will, and Will plays that as a goal-oriented game. It is a game about making the kids survive.
Right.
And I play that game as how can I make the coolest horror movie I can?
Yeah,
and
that's what I lean toward in those. Yeah,
because they're fake. Nobody's dying. You know, it's artifice. Same thing. You know, when I think about Darkest Dungeon, like it feels bad to die because it's not the goal of the game. But I don't feel the consequence of that doesn't feel real to me.
It took playing it and covering it for the show to understand just kind of exactly how many safety nets there are for you. The fact that if you lose a character that you put a lot of time into, you don't lose. It's not going to take an equal amount of time to get somebody back up to replace them. You know?
Yeah.
Like the things tilt in your favor ever more as you go along. You know.
It's not quite this, but you could almost say that like Darkest Dungeon is a game that presents there being high stakes when the stakes are actually lower. And Stardew Valley presents that there are no stakes, you know, through its like lack of fail state, but it ends up actually feeling that there are stakes because you have to judge it on a different curve when there's no way to lose.
Yeah.
Like losing cannot be part of your equation and how you think of that game since it's not possible. So you have to shunt into other things.
Yeah.
You know,
no, I understand people who see Stardew as being stressful, either because it reminds them of real life or because, you know, there are things that you can miss, you know, like what if you, you know, oh shit, I didn't get melons or
I didn't buy strawberries.
I didn't get melons or strawberries. Fucking, I guess I gotta wait till next summer to get to finish out that bundle. Like, that bumps back a ton of other stuff because I'm not gonna get the greenhouse. At that particular time, like that feels bad. And that's part of why you plan so heavily if you're trying to play Stardew as a goal focused game. Yeah, I totally get it.
And the way that the game doesn't tell you that stuff and wants you, like the intended purpose of the game is to fail that the first time around, because nothing tells you like, hey, make sure like it can say like you're going to need strawberries, but you don't know the context for that.
Right.
You don't know if that's going to show up as a seed in the store. You don't know what that's going to cost. You don't know how to get that, without looking it up in a guide. Ends up like changing the way that feels. So it simultaneously matters and doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That you don't get the strawberry there. In general, I'm warmer on it than Andrew is, but I also, eventually got bored.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't feel quite as reductive as it does to Andrew, but I also didn't feel like the systems were deep enough to me. Of those four things, the plan is the best one. Everything else I think can kind of rot a little bit. Like there's nothing to it. So put me somewhere between a corn and Andrew on that one.
I think this is me. Jay says, after listening to your episode on Stardew Valley, I re-downloaded the game to check whether or not my previous feelings about it remained true. And yep, turns out I simply can't enjoy Stardew at all. It was a little tricky to figure out why. It is a surprisingly deep, make-your-own fun experience with enough weirdo components that I should have been able to dig it. But I eventually put my finger on the reason, and an episode of Abject Suffering you guys put out helped me do so. For me, Stardew is about knowing in total detail the obligations of tomorrow. My parsnips will need watering. I've got to get to floor 80 of the dungeon before my energy runs out. I had better sort birthday gifts for the next 3 months, or these tiny pixel people will be mad at me. I am sure cooler people than myself can play these games as freewheeling jazz farmers, indulging 1, 2, 3, 4.
We're the freewheeling jazz farmers.
Indulging their whims and simply enjoying themselves day by day. Not me. Modern life has trained my brain to see lists of tasks as true obligations, requiring both urgent attention and a constant burn of mental overhead to ensure everything is in order well ahead of time. And hence, Stardew is pure chore to me and the opposite of chill. Each 10 minutes ticking by is 10 minutes less that I'll have this season to sort some stupid shit for grandpa, etc. Thanks again for your thoughtful coverage, and here's to worrying less.
Yeah, fascinating the way that this is like just the most relaxing thing in the world. Like so much so that it's medicinal in a pandemic.
Yep.
For some, and then for other people, it's just like, oh shit, another thing.
Yeah. Like, oh no, it's today.
I have to do this on top of everything else. Fuck.
Oh man.
No.
Yeah, but that's well put. Constantly knowing what is on the plate for tomorrow. It might just remind you of too much of your own stuff to want to retreat to it in a world.
And making it system based where it's going to follow rules reminds me of a big reason why people play games in general, and like the big appeal of The Sims, right? Like it's a sensible meritocracy in the way the world isn't.
Mm-hmm.
So in Stardew, you're like, I know I have this task list. I know what I need to do tomorrow. The second part of that that's silent is if I do that, then success.
Yes.
If I do that, then I am good and things go well.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how real life works.
No.
Whatsoever. So like it's, either reminds you too much of the dark real life version of it, or, it's
Mm-hmm.
It feels good because it follows rules.
Yeah.
I'm sure we talked about it in the episode. It's so funny to me that the closest thing to a fail condition is the ghost of your grandpa telling you he's disappointed in you in that game. If that was done intentionally, like if they played that up a little bit more for humor, I that would have I would be very happy. I was going to say it raised the game like a letter grade, but I don't know what I'd give it because I feel so conflicted on the game.
Right.
But like, that's so funny.
God,
I'm very disappointed in you.
Happy birthday spray.
Pretty sure for Sprainerd Kruger.
Yeah.
I'm very disappointed in you. Yeah.
I just thinking
Well,
about
fuck off, Ghost Grandpa.
thinking about how amazing it would be. You know, you have the first 2 years or whatever to get it right, and if you disappoint Grandpa, he just kind of like hangs around and makes passive aggressive remarks when you're doing the wrong stuff. Like,
or like sends locusts to your farm. You know, like what if that's when it got into big fail condition? Like it turned into Frostpunk as soon as your grandpa showed up, and I was like, you didn't do the right things. Like, just your wife dies in childbirth.
Yeah, just all of a sudden you go out to till the fields, and just the dirt's just full of rocks. It's like, damn it.
You put the hoe down and the blood starts coming up from the earth. You chop the trees down and there's bones.
Yeah.
In them, just grandpa just curses the shit out of it. Incredible. I gotta do the mod, like the Dark Grandpa mod. From the Dark Grandpa extended universe.
Just Pelican Town turns into the collective farm from Satan Tango.
Yeah.
It's like, just somebody comes in promising, yes, just pool your money. Prosperity awaits us down the road.
The damned are clean. Says Grandpa.
Oh God.
Written in blood on the community center walls.
I love it. Please make a mod like that.
That is a fun, like just a real long con Pony Island kind of thing. To unlock the real game, you have to fail Grandpa over the course of a svelte 50-hour 2-year game.
Yeah, that's when the blight sets in.
Yeah, it becomes Final Fantasy 14. That's when it gets good. You only have to put in like a full week's worth of work, and
then you're golden.
Yeah. Is this me?
Yes, this is you.
Nathan via contact says, when I initially played Stardew, I dated the washed-up football player Alex with my male farmer. There's a touching moment at the end of his romance arc where he admits he never expected himself to fall in love with a guy, but he's glad it happened. Those themes are barely explored beyond that one line, but the implication that Alex has been struggling with his sexuality always stuck with me. His grandfather also expresses prejudice against you, your same-gender marriage, so I can imagine there's a deeper story about his family left untold. The second time I played, I dated the fan favorite Shane. There's a memorable moment where you go on a date with him to see a football game, and when your team scores, Shane gets so excited that he spontaneously kisses you. I'm sure it's a cute scene regardless of your gender, but for two men to kiss in a traditionally hyper-masculine setting, it feels risky and subversive. That said, I'm getting tired of games portraying all romance options as player sexual. If you befriend these characters, there's no hint that they might be gay or bisexual. You have to opt in by initiating the same gender romance. By siloing all queer content, it reinforces the idea that everyone is straight by default, and wholly optional queer moments only exist to placate queer audiences. It is a bummer. Here's hoping for more from the haunted chocolatier.
Yeah. Well put. I understand where you're coming at from that. It is difficult for me to have a fully formed opinion because I have no skin in the game, but I jive with what you're saying.
Yeah. My instinct is always that, like, I don't want to take representation from anybody, and I understand the argument that when you are starved for representation, there are a lot of people for whom any port in a storm is how they feel. Part of me also thinks that what feels more progressive to me is just having there be gay people about who are out and proud, and there being straight people who are not fluid. Like, straight people exist. I don't need to like do a parade about it, but there are people who would not become gay for Shepherd.
Yeah.
Or Dragon Age protagonist or whatever, and just have them all exist and be realistically portrayed, because like there are, media is not real life. And part of the problem is the idea is that there aren't just like gay people who are just vibing, and are just gay.
Yeah.
How would something, and Stardew isn't necessarily the battlefield that I would choose for it, but like, what if there were just a couple of gay characters in town? You live in this town of 10 people. If you don't like either of those characters, like, that's a bummer, but it's a realistic bummer.
Yeah.
You run into like, the Vivisector and Fat from Ecstatics, where it's like, they were both gay and they hooked up because that was the option, and then realized like, we don't actually like each other. Like we were just figuring it out. I think those kind of stories are more interesting and feel more progressive to me.
No.
Personally, but again, it's not I'm not the audience that's being served by them.
Yeah, then it also becomes a question of it becomes a question of whether or not realism serves best in those instances, or if some other goal is being accomplished here. You know, the fact that Stardew is accommodating on options, you know, having everybody be an option maybe is serving the goal while also being a little bit like retrograde, probably in the message that it is unintentionally sending. You know, I don't know.
It depends on how much, you know, and again, not me, you know, but somebody who again has more skin in the game, how much they want correction.
Yeah.
You know, like the idea of just having everybody in this town is bi is a correction against games where straight was the default romance option. And what, you know, Nathan, one of the things that I get from Nathan's response, not putting words in Nathan's mouth, but it is the idea that is also can kind of loop around.
Yeah.
And be a little bit cloying and you know, harmful on its own. Yeah.
So send its own kind of message. Yeah. And ideally after the phase of overcorrection, there would settle into kind of a more defined narrative. You know, I can get it.
As somebody whose perspective is outside this, just my perspective, like not enforcing this on anybody, and I have no control over this. Like in my perfect world, LGBTQ plus people would just be in all the roles.
Yeah.
You know, it wouldn't be about any of that stuff, but like we would have gay villains. They wouldn't be queer coded Disney gay villains, you know, but like something like I feel like as a 201 level lesson of progressivism is that like sometimes somebody can be from a minority and still be a shitty person.
Yes.
You know, they don't follow. They're not a shitty person because of that. But like, you just have to look at, you know, the backlash, like Dan Savage backlash, right?
Yeah.
Like as a center left hero for gay rights, and then just see how shitty and transphobic he is.
Yeah.
You know, he's a gay dude. He also sucks. Eventually there will be enough representation where like we get a gay Luca Blight, and it won't feel gross because there are a lot of straight Luca Blights, and there are just the incredible, you know, there are gay, whatever the main character of Suikoden 2's name is. I can't remember. You know, I don't remember. There are 108 fucking characters in this game. But you would just have, you know, it would just be people, because I feel like that is, you know, there's people. Like that's the thing that bigots don't understand.
Yeah.
You know, and when you kind of erase that by just like mixing it all up, I think that you can do some harm, even if it is harm that can be therapeutic to some, and that I don't want to take that therapy away from anybody because it's not my thing. It's just my commentary from the outside.
Yeah.
So for what it is worth. So moving on to StarCraft 2 Wings of Liberty responses.
Yeah. I think this will be you.
This is you.
Oh, is it? Yeah, okay. I'll take it. Matt says via contact, just wanted to share a fun and probably irritating thing that I used to do in StarCraft 2 multiplayer. I would play as Terran and try to get to Reapers, the jetpack guys, as fast as possible. I would sneak a small group of them to the enemy's base and try to hop up near where their mineral fields were. I would try to kill all of their workers before they could react. Sometimes this can catch someone in a bottleneck where they've been spending every resource that they had and now didn't have enough to rebuild their workers. Realize it's futile and then quit. I'm not good at this game, so as my only strategy, please don't judge me.
Not do it.
It's a gamble. I mean, like if you're racing toward Reapers, you're not investing in other parts of your economy. So, you know, if that doesn't pay off and you don't get them in a bottleneck, you're left in a bad position. I don't know. I think all's fair in Love and War. I never really liked or respected No Rush 15 or 30 games. So
yeah. It's not my bailiwick.
Yeah.
As a non-competitive player, like all that stuff is just funny to me because it'll never affect me.
Right.
Because I don't play budget multiplayer.
Yeah.
Games. The Robert says via contact, may seem a bit weird, but I want to talk about Jim Raynor. He's a reasonably good expression of the knight in sour armor trope. While done better with other characters like Ramza from Final Fantasy Tactics, as a child and later teenager, Jim Raynor stands out as somebody I really admired. He was an example of goodness that only really seemed to exist in fiction, being taken advantage of and still sticking to their morals, even though doing so would ruin them, is something that I feel helped shape me as a young man. Even if I feel the story overall wobbles a bit under scrutiny, the character is a good interplay of personal morals, romance, and the needs of the greater good. Maybe it's a trope that's harder to get into, considering this is also the trope Alex Shitheel Jones pretends to be, fighting the losing battle against the globalist. But it mattered to me deeply as a teenager, and that moment of Jim Raynor walking out of that cave on Char with what amounts to a missed opportunity in his arms into an uncertain future by sparing Kerrigan still makes me tear up a little.
Yeah. I don't see, don't worry. I do not see your description of Jim Raynor matching Alex Jones, as somebody who has learned way more about Alex Jones than is necessarily healthy over the past month or so. Yeah, no, that's, I think we're good. And I also appreciate Jim Raynor's characterization.
Yeah. And this is probably the only place you're ever going to hear Alex Jones compared to Jim Raynor. You know?
Yeah.
Why doesn't that ever show up in our reviews?
Yeah. So somebody can be an underdog choosing a seemingly impossible fight without being compared to a fucking awful person like Alex Jones.
There would be like Marsara truthers.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Starcraft. Like if Blizzard were a different company. You know, like the Fox News parody of that stuff is all pretty toothless.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So.
Yeah. Good response. I like Jim Raynor. He is a standout in a game whose story is mostly enjoyable through ridicule. Yeah,
agreed.
Aaron writes via contact. This is the final StarCraft 2 response. In honor of playing it wrong month, I wanted to write in about StarCraft 2. Not because you played it wrong or to correct, though there are a billion little things that the pedant in me wants to correct, but to offer an alternative viewpoint about a type of game that you guys don't really ascribe to. While I often play games for story or experience or to see the world, the games that have stuck with me, my forever games, are all games where the primary draw is mastery. They're games the same way that baseball or football are games, rather than games as a literary medium. These are games like Overwatch, Counter-Strike, Escape from Tarkov, and to some smaller extent, StarCraft 2. It was actually very fun to listen to Gary's fling with competitive Left 4 Dead for this reason. These games are infinitely replayable because you're constantly honing and testing a skill. Is it an important skill? No, but there is still an endless amount of joy that can be derived from practicing skills, then testing them. Actually, StarCraft was a game that I briefly played as a mastery game, but actually fell off of it pretty early, before the end of Wings of Liberty's beta, actually. It's actually too stressful for me. The one-on-one nature meant every moment felt pressing, and there was never a moment to relax and take stock. You get those types of moments in other team-based games. Being the last one alive in a round of Counter-Strike can be terrifying, but hugely rewarding too. But they're just moments. StarCraft always felt like it was 10 to 30 minutes of that high, and I'd be exhausted after even one game. I still watch quite a bit of professional StarCraft, however. Because of my time with the game, I find it relatively easy to follow, and it's exciting in the same way that sports are exciting. It's fun to root for your favorites. On a totally different topic, if you ever get the StarCraft itch and aren't playing Heart of the Swarm or Legacy of the Void for WoW at the time, you should definitely check out the custom campaigns. There are some very cool custom campaigns, the best of which are just the race-swapped campaigns, which are actually really quite deftly done. It's a very fun remix of the original games, and you get the same great mission design with some cool twists. Also with difficulty options that are totally, quote, normal friendly. The co-op is also very fun, but it is a bit grindy, and it suffers from being mandatory co-op.
I've played quite a bit of co-op with Derek of the game. We didn't talk about it very much, but I have done a bunch of that. I've not done any custom campaigns. The mastery thing, there's, we talk about on the show, we'll talk about gamer psychographics.
Yeah.
A lot, like why people play games. And that is a huge one. Like there are a lot of people in a lot of games for whom that is what they want to do.
Yeah.
From sports games to sports to character action games. Like if you're playing Beautiful Joe, the people who do, Dante Must Die mode, who want to get S rank on Dante Must Die mode, it's super valid. It's the opposite corner of where I'm at with stuff. It would maybe be like a fun dispatch to try to codify some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Because there's like literary, there's expression, like challenge or mastery. Like there's a couple of different axes I feel like people can express themselves on with video games. And this is the reason why this was Playing It Wrong month is because I think that, Aaron, you are in the majority of StarCraft's audience. I mean, wanting to get better at the skill.
Yeah, definitely like StarCraft appreciators. The majority of like the time that is spent with the game, maybe this isn't true. Maybe there's just a lot of people who are like us who don't necessarily talk about it. But definitely the majority of the ink that is spilled is about the multiplayer game. Yeah,
and it's super valid.
Yeah,
it's its own thing. It's weird. My lack of interest in that applies to real life too. Like I'm not competitive and I don't like competitive board games either.
Yeah.
Or things like that. I don't feel good things about myself for succeeding at, games,
right?
Sport in like a general sense.
Yeah.
Does not give me good feelings about myself.
It's never been a thing that I enjoyed. Like even like back in school or whatever, The only like even when I did competitive stuff like academic challenge or quiz bowl, what other people would call it, like it was less about like beating the other team, and it was more just because knowing stuff felt good and knowing stuff under pressure felt good. It was never like fuck yeah, we really rubbed it into their faces. I just the solitary pursuits of perfection of again going back to school like choir competitions or solo ensemble or stuff like that, or golf, were more my speed. And that is, it continued to today. I don't like sitting across from somebody and saying, by the end of this, you will hate me because I will have bested you.
Well, I feel like that's also on a golf is also on the mastery.
Yeah.
Spectrum or what have you, where it's just interesting. Like whether it's a magic circle thing, like to play a game, you agree that things that are not important are important, and how much stock you put in that is something that I think influences your gamer psychographic, and how important you think it is also going to directly result in how good you feel about those things.
Also, I have never played golf for score. I have always played it as an excuse to be outside, or as I was older, an excuse to drink with my brother.
Golf for score is like a huge privilege thing. You have to play a lot of golf to play golf.
You
for score.
really do. Yeah.
And if you have a lifestyle where you can play golf a lot, how's your mansion?
You're doing okay.
Queen of England. Yeah. That's a certain kind of lifestyle. So, it's just interesting the way that people approach games in different ways and how that applies to other aspects of life as well.
Yeah.
And people follow what makes them feel good and what makes them happiest. I think kind of naturally.
Yeah.
So, let's announce what we're doing in 2022.
Yeah. So we made a couple of mentions of it, but December is Fallout 4 and all of its DLCs. Whole month of that. You already know that. That's old news. But we've got January of 2022 coming up, baby.
Yeah. We did a little swapping around on the schedule. Fallout 4 is, even months are my vanity picks. Under 2021 and onward WAF, and odd months are Cole's, but we did some swapping. So I'm doing a vanity pick in January, so Cole can have the October one.
Hell yeah!
That way, I can, be a Western JRPG or Western RPG chauvinist, and he can be a horror game chauvinist.
Yeah.
Without me colonizing both when he has a grander knowledge of horror.
Yeah.
And with that, I want to do something breezy to ring in the new year. So the first thing we're doing in 2021 is Super Mario Brothers 3.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
Looking forward to it. Let's just do the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, it's gonna be so good.
Yeah.
Really excited about that. That's a breeze of a game that I'm surprised we haven't done. And then once we do that and we do a proper episode on Super Mario World, we'll have done the classic Super Mario games, which will feel really good.
Yeah. Agreed. This is a nice follow-up. We did Super Mario 2 in January a couple years ago. I think that is a nice place to discuss those. So yeah, Super Mario Brothers 3. Then we are doing Dark Messiah of Might and Magic, an early arcane game.
Yep. Ryan sponsored this for the show, but this is something I wanted to do for a very long time for the podcast. It is really interesting. It's early arcane, like it is level based. It's like an immersive sim that is level based.
Yeah.
And it has, arcane's immersive sims tend to favor a cool way of getting around.
Got grappling hook. Yeah.
Yep. Like a grappling hook or a teleport. In Dark Messiah, it is being able to fire rope arrows.
Oh, that's what what I was thinking of. It's not a grappling hook. It's
It's really interesting. Like that is a really cool way to get around. And the story is laughably dumb. We are going to dunk on the succubus that lives in your head and makes double entendres for the entire game.
Wonderful. I am looking forward to dining on that.
Yeah. If you want like something in a sexy head demon, Dark Messiah of Might and Magic is for you.
Oh man, we should pair that up with Penumbra Black Plague.
Yeah. You got a bono, my little nephew.
And the premium game for that month, I'm looking forward to this, even though it is a flawed game. It is interesting. The Sinking City, which is the Frogwares game. Those are the people who usually make the Sherlock Holmes games. It is them doing a Lovecraftian kind of deal, and yeah, it's real neat.
Specifically a Lovecraftian deconstruction.
Yes.
Like the idea that the prominent families of this town are gorilla and frog people and are not necessarily monstrous.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about this because it gives me an excuse to finally like play it.
Yeah.
I started this and then fell off because of work. Because I put 150 fucking hours in Fallout 4, you jackals.
It was something like that. It was your pick. You don't get.
No, I know it was my pick. I earned it, man. Yeah, every once in a while, I'm like thinking about work, and I'm like, I fucking earned this. This is all I've done for the last like 2.5 weeks is just play this game.
Yeah.
And I put in more time than I wanted to because I wanted to have my definitive Fallout 4 experience.
Of course.
And I did choose it, but it's also, there are no short WRPGs really.
No.
We tried short WRPG month and it was still
a lot.
Long WRPG month.
Yeah.
It's a long genre.
Yeah. But also Sinking City, you get a lot of, it's a real, they go for some deep pulls when it comes to the forces that are in play here. So, it'll be fun to bring our Lovecraft knowledge to that.
Yeah. I'm super psyched. It's also just released on Switch not too long ago.
It runs very just a bit of a warning. It runs incredibly poorly on Switch.
Yeah, I've got it on PC and Switch.
Okay,
it was on sale at some point, so I can try the Switch version. If I don't like it, I can swap.
Yeah, you can double back. Yeah.
We have February booked out. If you were to sponsor an episode, you would be looking at March or April at this point. We encourage you to do so.
Please do.
And next year is going to be good. It's going to be fun. I've already kind of sat down and laid out a bunch of my picks, my vanity picks. So
I am also looking forward to that as well. Good stuff.
Yeah. Indeed. If you like the show, head on over to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. That is how you do, you sponsor games. That is how you hear premium episodes. That is how you get a bunch of bonus episodes. And that is how you support your boys.
Yeah. That's how you get episodes a week early if you would like to see those. It's we like to think that there is a lot of value there. You can check out other shows on the network. Check out Orb, which is our Venture Brothers rewatch podcast. You can check out Abject Suffering, our comedy show that is nominally about bad games. Everything to Guppy, that's Gary and Will nominally talking about Binding of Isaac items and enemies, and The Level, which is me and some folks doing like modern games kind of roundtable kind of stuff.
Please, his name is Dennis and he votes.
There's a lot. It's Dennis, Ben, David, and Jala. Yeah. There we go. Yeah. There we go. I can say all of them.
Yeah. No, I know. I like you succeeded in the name all the members of the level challenge. The teens are doing on TikTok.
Yep.
You have to do that, then you chuck a Tide Pod and plank. And that's how you
put plank over an open grave.
Yeah, plank you plank dive into an open grave while your bros bury you in butt ices.
Yep. Cool fads from 10 years ago.
Yeah. Kids are constantly dying to the new asphyxiation challenge.
Yeah.
On TikTok.
Gosh.
We will see you next week with going to the
Commonwealth,
wasteland.
baby. Yeah.
Commonwealth, baby. Yeah. I was going to do Civilization, and then I was like, oh, that song's like pretty racist, but it's also catchy, so I kind of shorted out.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. Sometimes you got to pull a ripcord in the middle of a sentence.
I didn't write it. Yeah. I didn't make the song.